welcome. My name is Lexi Jong, and here I like to talk about luxury makeup and Fude brushes. Today we have another episode of a bunch of brushes. And before we get into the details on today's video, let me just go over a few bits of sales information that's going on right now. So we have the Visage USA sale where you can get 25% off a $250 or more purchase with the code LOVE25, and that is ending today, February 7th. So make sure you take a look at that if that's something you're interested in. Then we also have a new promotion from Refer starting tomorrow, Monday, February 8th. And they are restocking brushes 4, 5, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. And they're also starting a new accounts program. So you can create an account there, and there's going to be like some sort of rewards program, I believe. So they're going to give you 1,000 points for starting an account, and then you can redeem that for 30% off at checkout. So that's a new promotion that's going to be starting Monday, February 8th. Now, today's video was requested by a few viewers actually, but the primary request came from Nady Nady, and she was looking for small foundation brushes. And these are going to be like smaller brushes that you can use to apply foundation and really get into those smaller crevices and so forth easily. So I personally usually use a larger foundation brush. Hey, if you have followed my channel, you know that I really like the Kyoto F04 or Fupa 03 from the former line. And when I'm using foundation all over my face, this is the style of brush that I typically prefer. However, sometimes you really just want to go in with a smaller brush, especially if you're doing like spot concealing, or if you're using, concealer instead of foundation, or perhaps just for like totally perfecting your look. So today we're going to take a look at smaller foundation brushes, as well as brushes that you can use for cream blushes, because these are going to be one and the same for the most part. Now, what you are looking for in a foundation brush or a cream blush brush is something that has either synthetic fibers or something with undyed goat hair. Those are the two types of hair that you can use easily with cream products. And again, with any cream product, you should wash your brush directly afterwards. Now, a small foundation brush is going to be something that is easy to get into the crevices and kind of get around corners and so forth. So, any foundation brush shape, it can also be made smaller. So you want to go with your preferred shape, and that's a very personal decision. Now, one thing that I'd like to know is these foundation brushes can also be used for blush. So unless you are going with one of the like flat paintbrush style, they can also work very well for blush. So the brushes we're going to talk about here, for the most part, are going to be dual purpose. Now, let's start with this first one. This is the Kyoto F07. This is from the new line. It's the mini version of my favorite. And again, this works great for foundation. It is synthetic, and you can see how much flex and give it has to give you kind of like that airbrushed finish. So, it's dense enough to apply it well, but there's enough give that it will help spread it out so nothing, cakes up in a spot. This is also a brush that works really well for cream blush because you can see how perfectly it fits on the cheek. So the F07, I think, is a fantastic brush to use. Now, another one that has a similar shape, this is the Chikuhodo F02 brush, and this is Silver Fox hair. Now, this one I personally do not use for liquid foundations. However, depending on what site you read, some sites say you can use this for cream products and others say you can't. So I think that's really going to be your decision. I do know some people who have this brush and use it for cream products with no issues. I have tried it for cream products. I have not had any issues, no breakage or anything either. But I did want to mention this. So again, we've got a similar flat top kabuki style shape. You can see that this one is going to be more dense. The hairs here are a bit shorter, so there's not going to be quite as much give. And you can see that the diameter is similar, slightly smaller, but pretty similar to the Kyoto. And I mean, again, this is going to work well for blushes and foundations. In the same style, we have the Refer 17 brush. And you can see, again, we've got shorter hairs, making it have a little bit less give. It's densely packed, has the same shape. This one's going to be the smallest that I have in this style. And this is undyed goat hair. So this can easily be used with cream products with no issue whatsoever. I love using this for cream blush. I think it works great for that. And again, it works well for foundation also. Next, we have the Surratt foundation brush. And you can see that this one is going to be angled. And I have to double check the fibers on this. It's undyed goat hair, but I feel like there are some synthetic fibers mixed in here. So I'll double check that and put that on the bottom of the screen. But you can see that it's got a nice shape. This works really well for foundation. I really like applying foundation with it, except it's a little rough. So it feels a little scratchy on my skin. So I don't reach for it very often. However, it does a beautiful job applying foundation. And, you know, whether you're going in with a full face of foundation or just in particular locations, it blends it out beautifully. So it performs really, really well. It's not the softest brush. So here's this one. And just so you can see diameter wise, it's going to be more similar to the Refer 17 in diameter. And because we have the angle, obviously it's gonna have a little bit more flex at the taller end than the shorter end. Next up, we have another Kyoto brush, and I have to look up and see what number this is. This is very soft. This is imitation goat hair. So it is a type of synthetic fiber, but this particular fiber is made to be as close to goat hair as possible. It does not feel like goat hair at all to me. It definitely feels like a synthetic fiber. And you can see that, again, we've got more of this flat top style, but it is rounded. It's also incredibly densely packed. It applies foundation and blush very well. The only thing is, because it is so dense, it is a bit more challenging to clean. So that's just something to know. Takes a little bit more work to be sure you're getting all of the product out of the bristles because it is so dense. But it does perform really well for blush and foundation. I think it's starting to get on the little large side for cream blushes, but it does still work. Next, we're going to take a look at more of a thick paddle style brush. And this is the Chikuhodo T11. This is one of my favorite foundation brushes. So it's still small, but it's not going to be the smallest. But I think this style of brush works really well with the more thinner liquid foundations, something with a thinner consistency. You can kind of like paint it on. I think it works really well for that. And it's dense, but it's not so wide here that it makes it too hard to clean. And it's a beautiful brush. It performs very, very well. Now you could use this for cream blushes as well. I actually haven't tried that. This is a brush that I use exclusively for foundation. And again, it's one of my favorites. Now, in contrast, we also have this one. This is the GSN 05 from Chikuhodo. And you can see that this is gonna be a little bit smaller. It's also gonna be a little bit wider, just a little bit. It's a little bit more densely packed here. Again, this is going to be a great option for foundation. It goes on really well, works well for cream blush. It does have a longer handle than the others we've been talking about here today. So you can see there is definitely going to be a size difference. So that's a personal preference. Some people like the long handles, some people prefer the shorter handles. So you just want to take that into consideration. For me personally, I usually prefer to use a shorter handle foundation brush to get more control. But this is another great option. And again, I think this brush, because it's so nice and densely packed here, it works well with all different foundation formulas. However, because of the long handle, if you are using something very liquidy, you could use it to get a little bit less control to kind of blur out the edges. And you know, that's a nice touch for having this longer handled here. So that works well with the thinner foundations. If you're using something very thin and liquidy and you're kind of just finishing up, hold it by the end of the handle and you can kind of blur the edges a little bit more softly than you would with a shorter handle. slightly shorter in handle, but still a little bit longer, is the Esom T47 brush. This is synthetic. And by the way, I forgot to mention the other two were both undyed goat hair. So the T47 is synthetic. It's very soft. This works fantastic for foundation. By the way, this style of brush, the T11, the GSN05, this T47, they also all work very well for cream bronzers because of this shape. So just something to note, blush, bronzer, foundation, they're all great for that. So this brush I use for a variety of purposes. It's very soft and comfortable to use. The handle's a nice medium length, and yeah, overall, it's a great brush. I really like this one. Next up, we have the Sonia G. This is the mini base from the Kiyaki set. So this is the one with the small handle. You can see the difference with the T11. And this is a blend of undyed goat hair and synthetic fibers. And this is another great option. So Sonia G designed this set to be really easy to travel with, or just something small and compact to have. And this works great for foundation. I personally use this for cream blushes because, I mean, you can see this size is kind of perfect here. It also works well for cream bronzer and so forth. So just for size comparison, the Rapper 17 was the smallest one we talked about before. And this is how much smaller the Kiyaki is. Now, another brush I wanted to compare to that is the Westman Atelier. This is the mini blender brush, and you can see how much smaller the actual head shape is. This is synthetic, and it's still made Fude style, so you can see how much smaller the mini blender is. And if you look at the amount of flex, you can see that it is going to be a little bit more firm. So this is technically not the foundation brush from Westman Atelier. However, it can be used for foundation. When I have used this for foundation, I have only used it when I've used something for like spot concealing and blending out. For example, the Chantecaille Real Skin Stick. So when I put this on in spots and then blend this out, I think this works well for that. But otherwise, for foundation, from Westman Atelier, I use the full-size blender brush, but they actually have a foundation brush that's like the flat paddle style as well, which I don't have. It's just not a style I prefer. However, this, you might think, oh, it looks like it's a little bit too small for blush or bronzer and so forth. It's not. So it actually works incredibly well, particularly with the Westman Atelier products. So when you put on one of the Westman Atelier blush sticks, you know, this actually blends it out beautifully and seamlessly. So it's a great brush. I think both of them work very well for blush products, and it really just depends what you are looking for. These are both great brushes for cream blushes and bronzers and so forth. This brush is a little bit more dense, so when you move it, it's really moving more of the product at once. So you're really kind of able to apply it and kind of blend it out very quickly. This one is a little bit more flexible, so you're able to get a little bit more of a softer blend with this. Now, that's really it for my foundation and cream blush brushes of a smaller nature. However, I did want to mention these two Westman Atelier eye brushes because these could also double. You can see that we've got more of a stippling brush here, and stippling brushes are great for giving you like this airbrush finish. That's one of the great things about this Surratt brush, which I failed to mention, but this is actually a stippling brush. I'm not sure if you can really see here, but there are longer hairs here. Most of the hairs end like about here-ish, and then you've got some longer hairs. And that helps give it an airbrush finish. This is very similar to the Baby Blender. This is the eyeshadow 2 brush. And you can see shape and size-wise, they're very similar, but this one is stippling. So in a pinch, you could use this for blush, bronzer, foundation as well. Or you could use the eyeshadow 1 brush as well. So this is kind of like a mini version of their foundation brush that they have. So you've got more of that flat paddle shape as well. And this one is more angled to make it easier to use around the eyes. But again, this is something that you could use for foundation and so forth as well. All of the Westman Atelier brushes are synthetic brushes. I hope that was helpful. As you can see, there's a wide variety of different brush styles, sizes, and shapes for all of these cream products. But again, you want to focus on things that can be safely used with cream products. So something with undyed goat hair or something with synthetic fibers. And again, as always, be sure to clean your any brushes used with cream products, clean them right away so that you are not damaging the hairs. Now, as to which brush to choose, it all depends on your own personal preference and what style you gravitate towards. If you start with a brush and it turns out you don't really like it for what you originally bought it for, try it for another application, and sometimes you will find that you actually really enjoy that shape or size for a different application than what was your original intention. So definitely always try and use your brushes in multiple ways and figure out what your favorite method is. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you again soon. Have a great day. Stay safe and healthy.